Greetings, good people. Welcome to another edition of Leaders and Learners, where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. And I am super excited that, in case you haven't heard, I have been, especially since this past election, really focusing on California because, I'm from Cali. I love everything about it. And there's so much going on that other people seem to always act like, they had a problem with us, but they love us. They love us because we're lovable people. I have an incredible guest today, but I definitely wanted to go over a few things that are happening in our great state of California. First, I want to talk about these 49ers. Okay. Y'all know I am quite the 49er fan. And here we are, almost to the end of the season, and we are sad. We are a sad bunch of people. The fans are sad. We are hoping for something, some psyched up game this Sunday that just gives us some new life and an opportunity to be able to make it into the postseason and do some great things. We've been struggling. We know a lot of injuries. It's like the season from hell. We came in with all this excitement and folks are getting hurt. There's been some inconsistent performances. And it ain't looking good. It's just not. I personally think a lot of these problems started at the beginning of the year with Brandon Ayuk. Sorry, but momentum and energy and camaraderie, that matters. How you start your season, how you start your togetherness, it really matters. And that momentum can carry over or it can ruin things. So that's just my thoughts. Hopefully, whatever happens this year, we start next year differently because the 49ers are hosting the Super Bowl and we need y'all to get it together. The team's communication channels have been kind of shaky. I think they really need to make sure that they are managing fan expectation, right? We talk about this all the time. Managing expectations is important. And I don't think we went into this season, especially since midseason, with the right expectations. And that comes from leadership. So I definitely feel like fan expectation and maintaining morale is something that their comms really needs to get together. So call me if you need some help. Now, our Golden State Warriors, my other favorites, they had a little rough run. We had a 5-game losing streak, and I was a little nervous, but it ended last night against the Rockets, and our little young buck, Kaminga, had his career high with 33 points. And guess what? No Curry, no Draymond. They killed it. We have been having this like fourth quarter collapse going on. And it almost reminds me of the 49ers, how we tend to lose in the final quarter, even if we've been ahead the whole game. I don't know what's up with this whole end of game situation that seems to be carrying over in the Bay Area. But I'm certainly glad that the Warriors kind of got out of that last night. They got out of that funk and we are moving forward. Their PR focus should be continuing to engage loyal fans like myself, while addressing some of these player development situations. I think it's cool to be like, we're still trying to cultivate these young guys because most of us already know like the young bucks are really the ones that are going to take us to the next level. And on sports, lastly, I do want to, I don't know if you know how hard it is for me to talk about the Dodgers, but since they have won the World Series, there's been a heightened pressure, I think, on continuing their success. Now, their PR team is going to be leveraging this victory to build more brand loyalty and offseason momentum. We know that. And I think part of that is this new renovation that they have going on right now with their stadium. It's a little old, needs a little makeover. So they've been doing some new renovations, which is great. I just wish they would do some renovations on the parking situation because that thing is like a fire hazard. I don't know if you've ever been to a Dodger game, but Lord have mercy, you have to leave early or you might not make it out of there in time for tomorrow, whatever tomorrow is. It's pretty bad. So if they could do something about that, which I heard LA might be bringing in some type of light rails or some mass transit situation. We'll see. It would be nice, but we'll see. Real quick in technology, the Apple Vision Pro seems to be the center of a lot of tech buzz right now. Apple is California based and they're promoting its integration into productivity and entertainment. So creating a new frontier for PR seems to be something that Apple is continuously doing. I don't know of any Apple product that PR professionals can't use. So, I'm not ready for the Apple Pro yet. I'm barely getting used to my own glasses, less known some tech glasses. They got the whole Ray-Ban has the glasses now where you can go into a room and just press and you're recording other people. Like, you got to be careful these days about what you're doing because you don't know who is recording you. And just so that we're all on the same page, is it just me or is Tesla Cybertruck like the ugliest thing on the road? I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Charles Barkley has a book that's called I Could Be Wrong, but I Doubt It. If you haven't read it, it is quite the read. As annoying as he can be, that's a great book. It really gives you a lot of insight into him and his country upbringing and how he became the man that he is. So just a little note right there. And lastly, in entertainment, I do want to stress there's a lot going on. It's the holiday season. And you will, if you're looking for any family entertainment, even if you are somewhere else and you want to come to California, Disney always has all of the attractions for family. They have an incredible holiday themed bunch of events that's going on. So if you are looking for something to do with the fam, Disney they got you covered. A lot of people have been seeing things going on about the entertainment industry in California, and most people know that it's struggling. I'm interested to see how this new legislation that Gavin Newsom has pumped in to the entertainment industry, how that's going to impact fallout from the writer's strike from before. Even though the strike is over, post-strike negotiations and timelines and relationships, those were all kind of messed up with studios and talent. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of PR navigation the entertainment industry is going to be doing to get over it's because the strike is over, but the all of the minutia from the strike is still causing issues with the industry. So all of that being said, we have an incredible guest today, and I am super thrilled to be able to bring him on. Why is that? Because let me see, how do I put this? I'm not a daddy's girl. I think every girl wants to be a daddy's girl. I was more like a granddaddy's girl. And maybe that's why this next guest is so intriguing to me because any girl that ever wanted to be a daddy's girl would love for a father to do this. So I have a book. It's called With a Father's Love. It's amazing. 52 weekly letters to my beloved daughter. 6 years ago, Dr. Moore found himself in a very low point in his life. 15 years of marriage, his wife came out and decided to file for divorce. So, being afraid he would lose the custody battle, he penned a heartfelt letter to his daughters for 52 weeks. I mean, some of y'all can't even be consistent enough to go to work every day, less than on penning a letter every week, 52 weeks of I love yous and how much you mean to me and how important you are to me. And no matter what happens, you are still the center of my universe. And I'm done talking about this. Let's go ahead and bring on Dr. Moore. How are you?
Hello, Tanya. Did I call you Commissioner? Did I call you Tanya? Or did I call you Commissioner McKenzie?
Well, since you are a man that is also in service, you can just call me sis or,
Okay.
whatever you want to do here.
Call you sis then.
Yeah. No, it's Tanya, Commissioner McKenzie, however you want to call it. But I want to call you brilliant because this is incredible and the book is great.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So, listen, I want you to tell us a little story, get us familiar with you, and let us know something that has impacted your life.
Right now, I guess one of the biggest things in my life is I'm a community activist. I recently retired, and I'm a co-chair of an organization called Parity Inc. And Parity His mission is to advocate for social and economic equity within the African American community. That's our fundamental purpose, and we will achieve that mission through collaboration with others. So we have it that Parity Inc. has 5 pillars. We focus on education, health, economic development, community development, and public policy. And we've been pretty good in the community about working with other organizations to build up the African American community.
Mm,
Um, Used to be, we were one of the biggest, had the best mentoring program
mm.
in the Dayton, Ohio area. And as I do in my Sunday school classes, I say we're not a containment class. So we build up others so they can go out and teach as well. So we started a mentoring collaboration. So we were not the head, but everybody in the community was able to get involved. So that was one of the type of things that you don't just always try to be the lead, but you let others have a little bit of the swag as well to
I
help out the
love that.
community.
I love that. Now, tell me about this book and how we got here to a place where you felt like you needed to write it.
Well, as you said, a few years back, my wife surprised me and filed for divorce. Um, so what I did was I said, as many fathers, I've known many men who've gone through divorces. They have lost custody of their children. So I said, well, I'm going to fight for the custody of my children, and I want my children to know something about me. And both my daughters at the time, they were about 9 and 13 years of age. And so I decided, what better way for them to know something about their dad than to write them a letter every week on various topics. First letter was, I will always love you. And I just continued writing letters from that point on afterwards.
Now, it's difficult to write a book, right? The whole process, book writing process. And I know you're highly educated, but tell me about that process, taking something that's so personal and so deeply held as sacred to you to compile it and have it published as a book.
The first thing I did was I told my daughters, I'm going to make your own personal book. So I took those letters and I went to a hybrid publisher and we published the book. And it was just those letters with a little introduction and just the letters, got it bound, nice cover, and gave it to my daughters. And other people in church and work in the community found out about the book and the letters. They said, you got to share this with the other young ladies, young girls. And so they encouraged me to write a book for the general consumption, public consumption. And so then I had to go on a sort of modify the letters to make them where they could be read by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I did with the letters was I came with a format where I would put a little introduction before the actual letter, uh, called a section just sharing, and then I would actually do the letter, and then I would close with a reflection and with a dad factoid, a little bit of information about me, so my daughters would know who their dad was.
There's a big, I think there's a big gap in generations these days. I think legacy and leaving a legacy is something that maybe they don't process the way that we do.
Mhm.
What does it mean for your legacy that you wrote this book? And then do they understand that? And how have you helped them understand the power of legacy?
So I've been fortunate. I'm the president of the Moore McDonald Family Reunion, and we've been having a reunion since I think the family since the 40s. And we have our own constitution and bylaws for
Mm,
doing it. For what the family colors, the family motto, we have the date that the event will occur on. So as a family, we've been fortunate. We've been organized for years. Even have video footage back in the 50s of when my grandfather had motorcycles, cars, those type of things on the family farm in Alabama. 12 children. The legacy was in Alabama, you could only go through the 6th grade, and the education for African American kids stopped at the 6th grade.
Wow.
My grandfather sent all of his kids out of state to boarding schools to get their high school education, and all of his children went to college. So that's so we have a strong legacy from the Moore McDonald family that I build upon.
And do your daughters understand that?
I think they're coming around to understand it. Um, the generation now, my daughters are now 19 and 23, and so I think the generation now they are caught up more into the social media and that type of thing. But both of my daughters are readers, and I think one of my letters were readers or leaders, sort of going off your Leaders and Learners podcast.
Hmm.
So they do know the power of reading and learning for yourself, and not just listen to what other people say, but actually read it for yourself.
All right. Let's talk about this election. What are your
Okay.
thoughts about how this all turned out and where we go from here?
Okay. So I did work I was a civilian in the military, so we did look at gaming of different things. And I told all my close friends, I said, all of the media outlets were controlled by one party. I said, no matter how well your message is, if you cannot get your message out to the people that you want to get it to, you're just whistling in the dark. And I think that's what this election came down to. There were really no outlets for uh, Vice President Kamala to get a message out to the general populace.
Why do you think that there's very little support for Black media? Because we can say that whoever controls the media, but the truth of the matter is there are Black media outlets. However, they do get less of the funding, less of the support, and don't get all the access that mainstream media gets to be able to get that message out. Like, talk to me about that a little, because I'm with you, but we're missing some things because they are out there. They're just
So,
not getting the financial support that others do.
so when we grew up, we used
Back
to
in
have
the day.
we used to have AM and FM radios that
Amen.
were African American owned. There are very few African American owned AM FM radio stations. That was a big way of communicating to the community. The other way of communicating to the community was through the, for lack of a better word, the Black church. There are not a lot of folks going to church these days, so
Mm.
you don't get the message out through church. You don't have the radios that you used to have. You have a station on Sirius that talks to African Americans, and you may have people like Roland Martin has his was it Rockstar, I think it is, something like that.
Hmm.
Uh, but once you get beyond that, and we still have an African American newspaper in Dayton, Ohio, which is rare, but it doesn't have the circulation that the other newspaper has. So that's why I say it's hard to get the message out, because the other thing is you had the social media was flooded with misinformation. Regular media was flooded with misinformation. By the way, I live 15 minutes from Springfield, Ohio. So my dentist is in Springfield, Ohio. That's the hometown of John Legend. And so we know about the misinformation that was going on from there. So you get those type of things going on. And then, quite honestly, there are a lot of I call them false flag issues that people latch onto, like
Hmm.
transgender bathroom issues and those type of things that have nothing to do with their day to day life.
I had a someone that's close to me call me and say, um, I I I think the Democrats are, with this, what is it, gay agenda. And I was
Hmm.
like, what gay agenda?
Hmm.
Like, What agenda are you talking about? Because I don't know about you, but I've had plenty of gay people in my family as long as I know it. So currently some. So I'm trying to figure out. I asked him, I said, how does this impact your life? Because, we got cousins that this is their lifestyle and we've never had a problem with them before. So why all of a sudden now is this really bothering you? What do you say to that, doctor? Is why all of a sudden things that we have lived normally with, how can someone else come into that atmosphere and make it a problem?
I think the Governor Tim Walz hit it well. You need to mind your own darn business.
Mm.
And most people don't mind their own business. A good friend of mine, he used to tell people, he said, you need to find some business of your own so you're out of mind. And basically, a lot of that's what goes on is we're always talking about other folks versus saying, how can we build up our community? How can we build up ourselves to be better people? And and quite honestly, a lot of people are not good with statistics or math. So if you tell somebody, hey, do you realize that maybe it's only affects 300 people in the prison situation across the entire country? That's not a big issue. So pay attention to something
Why
that's
is
really
this
impacting
so?
life.
Why is common sense not common? I mean, come on. Why is common sense not common? What happened?
Common sense has never been common. It's never been common.
Jesus Christ. What kind of doctor are you?
I'm a engineer.
Okay,
My,
so
my,
you're an
my doctorate
engineer.
degree is in material science and engineering.
Oh yeah, so you're a nerd. I love it. Yeah.
But I did take some African American history courses and public relations and advertising and marketing courses, and I
No,
have
here's my
a
question,
business
Smarty
course.
Pants. Here's my question. I posted something a couple weeks ago, and it was from another doctor friend of mine,
Mhm.
Dr. James Henry over at Cal State Northridge. And he said, these other people don't ever tell their kids, don't go to college. So why are we? What is going on when we find ourselves in a time where Black folks are telling their kids, don't go to college? What is going on where we are more willing to promote trade school than going to a university? I am lost with that because it has never been a part of our culture. And it's not saying you can't go to a trade school, but it was never to not pursue higher education. Can you talk to me about that and where you think that shift has happened?
Well, there's been an attack on our education system, first of all. So, uh, if you grow up in a city that has a high minority population, there's been a disinvestment in education, and the students that are coming out of that education system, for the most part, are not prepared to go to college. So, I know what we're pushing is for those kids that could go to college, we would like those kids to go to college. However, there is another alternative for them, and that is trade school. Because we need to build houses and infrastructure. So you need the plumbers, electricians, and those type of folks, carpenters, even people that are doing what automated engineering. So that's a degree that's those are fields you don't necessarily need a college degree, but you still need to know how to read and write, you still know how to do basic math. And if you're not getting those, you're not going to be able to succeed in those areas as well. Another issue is that a lot of the way policing is done. Uh, you would hope that we would be like some of the Jewish communities and have our own police forces in our communities so that the residents are treated fairly and not necessarily mistreated. So to keep them out of that prison pipeline as well.
Okay, so moving forward, on top of education, you mentioned it before, people aren't going to church anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think that came from and how can it be resolved or reversed or if at all?
Oh, that's a tough one because we are trying to revive our teen ministry at the church. And the only way it really got revived was that the youth came together and said, we need something. And they revived it. The adults are not
Mm.
doing the job. So a lot of that is the parents are not doing what they're supposed to do. And a lot of parents don't go to church, and they don't want to take their kids to church. Uh, when I was growing up, everything was closed on Sundays. Now there are a lot of athletic events on Sundays. I remember when my kids were growing up and they was in gymnastics, they would put events on Sunday. I'm like, wait a minute, we're not going to be taking the kids to an event on a Sunday. That's when our church time is. But you keep seeing that creep over and over again into the Sundays. And, not a 7-day Adventist, so I don't go to church on Saturday. But but a lot of them protect their Saturday Sabbaths.
There was a lot of religious talk during this past election,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy because it came from people that were doing some of the most ungodly things. What is that about? When did religion become so much a part of politics, or has it always been? And how do people distinguish between what's what's religion and what's heresy?
Okay, so there's a lack of critical thinking in this country. Uh, uh, and what I tell most people, I say they say America is a Christian nation. I say America is not a Christian nation. I said that's a slogan.
Mm.
It is not a Christian nation. Most people do not read that Bible for themselves. They just listen to what someone tells them. So when people start talking about the Ten Commandments, I say, have you ever went to what Jesus said? They ignore completely what Jesus said, and they stay right back in that Old Testament, talk about the Ten Commandments. And I say, it was more than 10 commandments. Uh, but they don't get the concept because they haven't studied for themselves for the most part. And so we get this bootleg, what we call the bootleg Christianity coming out of folks, where they claim that if someone is committing all these atrocities and crimes, they say, oh, well, they're like David, God's own man or woman. So they make excuses for people who are doing things wrong.
It's wild to me. Like you, I grew up just going to church, and then I went to Grambling University, and I remember the first Sunday we were there. We had partied on Saturday night,
Mm-hmm.
and on Sunday morning, my girlfriend, who is faithful to church in California, she had the car, and she was like, "Okay, well, let's go." And I was like, "What do you mean? I'm tired. We just got in like 2 hours ago. I just want to get some food." First of all, you couldn't even get food during church hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like down south, nothing food based was open until after church hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, if you can party, if you got time to party, you got time to go to church. I was like, oh man, I thought I had left home to go be grown, and here she come making me adult and go to church. Like, it's too much. It's too much. But I don't see that a lot anymore in our young people. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out, do you talk to your daughters about church? Do they go? Is it just a generational divide? Can we get that back?
So I'm working with, I'm helping our assistant pastor write up his doctorate of divinity dissertation, for lack of a doctorate of ministry thing. And his topic is on church hurt.
Hmm.
So there are a lot of people who have been hurt by church, by people in the church. They've been hurt, had trauma before they came to the church. And and the church is not necessarily addressing their pain. So they are not going.
Church hurt. So what's
Yeah.
the fix? You've been working on this with the pastor. What is the fix? How do you reverse that?
Well, he's gonna when he gets to the end in about a year or so, he's gonna write up a work plan about how to address it. They can share with other churches about how to address church hurt. So he had to bring in psychologists and everything else to work with them on this. So it's been pretty interesting.
I love that. Well, look, I appreciate you sharing time with us about yourself, about the book, about your girls, and all the wonderful work that you are doing. Why don't you let the people know how they can get in touch with you, stay in touch, follow your journey?
Okay. Well, one of the things is I'm revamping my website, but you can go to edmundhmore.com. That's the way to get in contact with me. On Facebook, I'm at author doctor dot that's dr dot Edmund H dot Moore. On Instagram, I'm at doctor dot Edmund H dot Moore. Of course, my book is available by Amazon. I think Target sells and other places sell it. Or you can even go to the publisher, the hybrid publisher, Lipbridge Publishing. And that book title is With the Father's Love, 52 Letters to My Beloved Daughters by Edmund H. Moore.
I love it. Thank you again for taking the time to chat with me and to chat with our viewers on Leaders and Learners. And we wish you all the success. If you happen to be out in California at all, hit us up. Let us know. We'll make sure that we let everyone know so we can come out and support.
Well, thank you, Tanya. And by the way, I'm a FAMU Rattler.
Ah, I was a GSU Tiger.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What you think about today's episode, and share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores, or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.